03:18 local time. North Atlantic, international waters. Inside the Combat Information Center, the screens glow a muted blue. Range rings expand. Course vectors multiply without commentary. No one raises their voice, they don't need to. 8 surface contacts. Unidentified. Speed increasing. Formation coordinated. The call is flat. Professional. Logged. On the bridge of the lead destroyer, the officer of the deck shifts his stance and looks down. Not at the water, but at the tactical display mounted beside the helm. The numbers tell the story faster than binoculars ever could. Distance shrinking, angles converging, closest point of approach recalculated every 20 seconds. This isn't a single ship. This is a fleet. 3 destroyers, 2 cruisers, 1 carrier, and supporting vessels. Moving in formation. Moving with purpose. Below deck across multiple hulls, steel doors cycle open and shut as watchstanders move with purpose. Not rushed, not slow, just practiced. Boots hit deck plates. Headsets settle into place. Every motion is muscle memory earned the hard way. Condition posture changes without ceremony. No alarms, no theatrics, just readiness multiplied across 7 warships. The fleet holds course. That matters. Out on the water, the 8 contacts are still officially unknown. No ace, no friendly response to bridge hails. Their profiles sharpen with every mile they steal back. Hull length, superstructure spacing, radar cross-sections that don't belong to fishing boats or merchant traffic. This isn't random traffic. This is intercept behavior. CPA under 12 nautical miles and decreasing. Another log entry. Another quiet confirmation that time has become a factor. Across the fleet, the message passes through encrypted channels. 8 contacts. Coordinated approach. Profile consistent with military surface combatants. On the bridge of the carrier, the Admiral watches the same display everyone else is watching. He doesn't speak immediately. He lets the geometry explain itself. The 8 contacts are arranging themselves into a line, not parallel to the fleet's course, perpendicular to it. A wall. The fleet does not change speed. That also matters. The ocean stays calm, but the geometry does not. The 8 contacts settle into their line, spaced evenly, creating a barrier across the fleet's intended path. Not close enough to be immediately dangerous, close enough to force a decision. This is where accidents are born or prevented. Contacts remain unresponsive to hails. The words land without emotion. They don't need any. Long-range optics come alive across multiple ships. Lenses adjusting automatically, feeding stabilized imagery back into the fleet's nervous system. White wakes cut clean lines across the water. You can see the discipline in how they're made. No wandering helms, no indecision. These ships know where they're positioned. In sick aboard the lead cruiser, an analyst leans closer to his screen, comparing silhouettes against memory. Angular hulls, distinctive mast configurations, the kind of shapes you don't confuse with anything else once you've seen them enough times. Likely Russian surface combatants. Likely becomes probable. Probable is enough. The fleet acknowledges. Nothing else changes. That's the point. A junior watchstander glances at the tactical coordinator, then back to his display. The coordinator's posture doesn't signal alarm. It signals assessment. That message carries across the network. Outside, the range ticks down. 10 nautical miles, then 9.2. Across the fleet, weapon systems remain in travel configuration. Visible, but not threatening. A state that can change in seconds if needed. Anyone trained to read warships understands the difference. Inside the Russian ship's bridges, someone sees it. They have to. No one fires. No one locks. No one escalates yet. Contacts now visually identified. The pause before the next words is brief, but it's there. 8 Russian warships, forming a blocking line across our projected course. No one reacts. There's nothing to react to. Nationality answers questions, but it doesn't change math. The math says there's a line ahead. The math says the fleet has options. One of the 8 Russian ships transmits a brief message, not in English. Not on standard channels, it's for their own formation. Coordination. Confirmation. On the bridge of the carrier, the admiral finally speaks. Maintain fleet course. Maintain speed. Log everything. That's it. No dramatic declarations, no threats, just instruction. The fleet keeps moving. 7 warships cutting through blue water in formation. Systems awake. Crews focused. Restraint intact. Every sensor records. Every second is time-stamped. Every maneuver, theirs and ours, becomes evidence. The range continues to shrink. 8 nautical miles. Then 7.4. Out here, nothing is loud. Nothing explodes. Nothing makes headlines yet. But 8 warships have positioned themselves directly in the path of a U.S. Navy fleet. And everyone involved knows the next hour will decide whether this stays a professional encounter or becomes something the world hears about. 337 hours. The range closes steadily. The numbers change with mechanical precision. Each update confirms what everyone already understands. The Russian line is holding position. The American fleet is maintaining course. Something has to give. Inside the Combat Information Center aboard the carrier, the display shows the geometry with brutal clarity. 8 Russian ships spaced across 6 nautical miles of ocean. The fleet's course runs directly through the center of that line. CPA now under 6 nautical miles. Acknowledged. Logged. Across the fleet, officers of the deck make minor adjustments, not to evade, to maintain formation integrity as the distance closes. The wakes behind each ship remain parallel, straight, unwavering. Another hail goes out, this time broadcast on multiple frequencies, in multiple languages. This is United States Navy fleet conducting lawful transit through international waters. Request you maintain safe distance per international maritime regulations. Silence answers back. That silence is calculated. Long-range cameras sharpen their focus. Hull numbers become visible. Deck crews can be seen moving with purpose. You can see weapon mounts tracking slightly, not locked, just aware. No fire control radars active, not yet. That matters too. In SIC, an analyst tracks the formation spacing. The Russian line has gaps, deliberate gaps, wide enough for ships to pass through, narrow enough to make the passage feel like compliance. They're offering a choice: alter course to go around, slow down and request passage, or continue forward and thread the needle. The Admiral's response is immediate. Maintain course. Maintain speed. Maintain formation. The message ripples through the fleet in seconds. No hesitation, no debate. The decision is made. The Russian line is 5 nautical miles ahead now, close enough that visual contact is possible from the bridges. You can see them. They can see you. One of the Russian ships adjusts position slightly, narrowing one of the gaps by a few hundred yards. It's subtle. It's deliberate. It's a test. The fleet does not react. Course steady. Speed unchanged. In SIC, the watch supervisor marks the movement. Logged. Analyzed. Understood. They're trying to provoke a response. Any response. A course change would signal deference. A speed change would signal uncertainty. The fleet gives them neither. The range continues to drop. 4 nautical miles. Then 3.6. On the bridge of the lead destroyer, the captain stands with his hands behind his back. His eyes are on the water ahead. The Russian line is visible now without magnification. 8 gray shapes stretched across the horizon. Behind him, the crew works with quiet efficiency. Helm maintaining heading, throttles unchanged, radar and communications flowing smoothly. No panic, no excitement, just professionalism. This is how discipline looks when it's real. The Russian line is 3 nautical miles ahead. The gaps between their ships are clear now. The geometry is unmistakable. They've left space. Just enough space for the fleet to pass through without collision. Not enough space to pass through without making a choice. The fleet makes the choice. Forward. CPA now under 2 nautical miles. At this distance, the Russian formation is no longer abstract. These are ships, steel hulls rising from the water, superstructures bristling with sensors and weapons, crews visible on deck. This is as real as it gets without contact. Across the American fleet, readiness sharpens without announcement. Fire control systems remain passive, but prepared. Damage control teams confirm their stations. Helicopter crews complete final checks. Nothing escalates. Everything tightens. The admiral watches the display. The fleet symbol approaches the Russian line like an arrow toward a fence. The time to contact drops below 15 minutes. He doesn't blink. He doesn't hesitate. The fleet will not go around. The fleet will not slow down. The fleet will not ask permission to transit international waters. The fleet will go through. One of the Russian ships transmits again, this time in English. Attention U.S. Navy Fleet. You are approaching Russian Federation Naval Exercise Area. Recommend you alter course to ensure safety. The response is immediate and calm. This is U.S. Navy Fleet transiting international waters. Our course and speed remain unchanged. Recommend you maintain safe distance. The radio goes quiet. But the silence feels different now. Heavier. More deliberate. The Russian line is 1 nautical mile ahead. The gaps are clearly visible. The fleet's formation is perfectly aligned to pass through the widest gap, but alignment is not the same as permission, and passage is not the same as deference. This is where the moment lives. 1 mile of water, 2 formations, no room for miscalculation. The lead destroyer reaches the line first. Her bow cuts through the plane where the Russian formation holds. No change in course. No change in speed. She passes through the gap with hundreds of yards to spare on either side. The Russian ships hold position. They don't maneuver. They don't close the gap. They watch. The second American ship follows. Then the third. The carrier passes through the center, her massive hull dwarfing the Russian ships flanking the gap. Then the trailing destroyers, one by one. Formation intact. The fleet passes through the line like it was never there. On the Russian ships, crews watch silently. On the American ships, crews remain focused. No celebrations, no provocations, just transit. The geometry inverts. The Russian line is now behind the fleet. The open ocean stretches ahead. CPA begins to increase. 1.2 miles, 1.5, 2 miles. In Seakick aboard the carrier, the watch team logs the passage. Time stamped, recorded, analyzed. The Russian formation made no aggressive moves. No weapons were locked. No collision occurred. But the message was sent, and the response was given. The fleet holds course. The Russian line remains in position behind them. The distance opens steadily. 0411 hours. The Russian formation finally breaks. One by one, the ships peel away from the line. Not in retreat, in redeployment. Their exercise continues. Their posture shifts from blocking to observing. The American fleet continues forward. Mission unchanged. Course unchanged. 7 ships moving in formation as if nothing of significance occurred. But everyone involved knows better. On the bridge of the carrier, The admiral reviews the timeline from first contact to passage through the line. 53 minutes. Not a single escalatory action from either side. Not a single deviation from international law. Professional, disciplined, resolved without incident. The logs will show that the fleet exercised its right to transit international waters. The logs will show that the Russian formation attempted to impede that transit. The logs will show that the attempt failed, not through confrontation, through persistence. The Russian ships fade into the distance astern. Their wakes dissipate. Their presence diminishes. The ocean returns to looking ordinary. But the encounter will be reviewed. Every decision, every communication, every second of video. Not because anything went wrong, because everything went right. And understanding why things go right is how you make sure they go right again. For the crews involved, the meaning is simpler. They held course. They maintained formation. They exercised their rights without escalation. They demonstrated resolve without provocation. This wasn't about dominance, it was about presence, the right to be here, the refusal to be deterred, the capability to operate forward without asking permission from those who would prefer otherwise. The fleet disappears into the North Atlantic, 7 gray hulls steady against blue water. Behind them, 8 Russian warships resume their exercises. The moment has passed. But the lesson remains. In international waters there are rules, and the enforcement of those rules isn't about who brings the most ships, it's about who maintains discipline when tested. 0442 hours. The sea returns to routine. The Russian formation is beyond visual range now. Radar tracks confirm they've resumed their exercise pattern. The American fleet continues its planned mission. Watches rotate. Logs are finalized. The operational tempo shifts back to standard. Down in the combat information centers across the fleet, the work continues. Radar recordings are archived. Communication logs are indexed. Every bearing change, every radio transmission, every moment of the encounter is time-stamped and preserved. Nothing is summarized yet. Nothing is interpreted. Facts come first. This is how professional navies treat encounters like this. Not as stories, as data. Because data endures longer than memory, and memory alone doesn't hold up when decisions are questioned later. On the bridge of the carrier, the admiral reviews the final entries with a glance, not a speech. The watch team resets to routine posture without being told. There is no sense of triumph. There is no sense of relief loud enough to name. There is only professionalism settling back into place. This was never about winning a confrontation. It was about exercising rights without surrendering them, about maintaining course without compromising safety, about demonstrating capability without demonstrating aggression. The fleet did not maneuver to avoid the Russian line. It did not slow down. It did not request permission. It simply continued its lawful transit through international waters. That continuation, expressed calmly and consistently, did more than any radio challenge ever could. The Russian formation learned something in those minutes of positioning and watching. So did the American crews. Encounters like this always teach both sides something. The difference is in what they choose to do with the lesson. For the sailors aboard the American ships, the takeaway is straightforward. Procedures worked. Discipline held. The chain of command remained intact under pressure. That is not accidental. It is the result of years of training that assumes difficult moments will come without warning, in calm seas, under conditions that require restraint more than reaction. Out here, restraint is not passive. It is active control. Every decision made during the encounter was made with an understanding of consequences that extend far beyond these ships. A single overreaction can echo through diplomatic channels. A single miscalculation can create incidents that take months to resolve. That is why nothing dramatic happened. That is why nothing needed to. The fleet did exactly what it was designed to do. Operate forward, maintain presence, exercise rights, all without provocation or escalation. This is the part of naval power most people never see. No missiles fired, no dramatic maneuvers, no footage meant for headlines, just quiet professionalism applied at the moment of friction. And that quiet is deliberate, because in the modern maritime environment, power is often measured not by what you do, but by what you don't have to do. Not by the weapons you fire, but by the course you maintain. Not by the confrontations you win, but by the escalations you prevent. What kept this encounter professional was not luck. It was preparation meeting discipline at the moment of test. By the time the Russian formation was well clear, the fleet had already moved on. Mission planning continued. Training evolutions resumed. The ships pressed ahead as if nothing of note had occurred. But something had occurred. A line was drawn in water that holds no lines. A principle was defended without a shot fired. A right was exercised without compromise. Somewhere else in another stretch of ocean, another formation will steam another day. Another contact will appear, another line will be drawn, and the same question will hang in the air, unspoken but understood. Will this remain professional? That answer is never guaranteed. It has to be earned every time. Through training, through discipline, through the willingness to maintain course when pressured to alter it. For now, the American fleet continues its transit. 7 ships in formation, steady against the water, carrying with them a record of an encounter resolved not by force, but by persistence. No shots fired, no course altered, no rights surrendered. Just a reminder that sometimes the strongest message a navy can send is this: we will operate where international law permits. We will maintain our course, and we will not be deterred by formations designed to intimidate. The North Atlantic stretches ahead. The mission continues. The fleet moves forward. And behind them, the lesson settles into the water like the wake disappearing behind a ship. Presence sustained. Rights exercised. Discipline maintained. That is the answer. Every single time.